Welcome to the Brass and Woodwind shop. There are three different types of screws that hold keys onto woodwind instruments. These are the three different types of pivot screws. This video is going to be about this pivot screw with the shoulder on the head and the cylindrical end of the screw. Look in the description below for links to the other videos on the other types of pivot screws. Bundy saxophones and Bundy clarinets are the most common instruments, at least in my area, that have these type of pivot screws, but there are others also. The good thing about these pivot screws is that you just screw them in until they're tight and then they're done. The bad thing is that they can be a little sloppy this direction. You can see the key moving back and forth right there. And that's because the posts are what the key stops on. The pivot screws hold the key in place, but they do not keep it from moving sideways. When you're taking apart an instrument with these type of pivot screws, it is very important to keep the screws in order. I do that with a screw board. When I take them apart, I make sure that all of the screws are in a certain order every time when I take it apart. I already took off the keys with the hinge rods, and I put the hinge rods right there. Now I'm going to take off the keys with the pivot screws. I removed the low EB key first. I put the two pivot screws from this key here and here. I put the bottom one on the bottom, and then when I take the top one off, I'm going to put that on the top. And that is how I keep those screws straight. And there are either 8 or 10 pivot screws on most clarinets on the lower joint. Next I take off the F-sharp, C-sharp key. And again I'm going to put the top pivot screw on the top and the bottom pivot screw on the bottom. And I'm going to do the same with the other keys also. And if you want to see a video on taking apart a clarinet, look for the link in the description below. The reason it's important to keep the screws in order is that when you put the screw on the instrument, the end of the screw is slightly bent. You can't really see it, but it is slightly bent, and it's bent to fit the key in. And all the posts are slightly different, so if you switch these around, then they're going to be bent in different directions, and then the key is going to get stuck. To show you what I'm talking about, I'm going to take these screws and mix them up, and then I'm going to put them on the instrument. I left off the keys with the hinge rods, but I put on all the keys that have pivot screws, and I'll show you what I got. The EB key does not work. The F-sharp, C-sharp key works fine. This lever is a little bit sluggish, but it does go up and down. I'm guessing if I took the spring off it, it would probably be a little stiff. This key works, but it is a little sluggish also. So of the 4 keys I put on here, one works fine, one does not work, and then the other 2 are a little stiff. I will show you how to fix this problem. The way to fix that is to unhook the spring and then remove one of the screws. Then you take the end of the key and move that around, and you'll feel for which way this screw is bent. So I'm just turning this around and feeling which direction the key goes. And it feels like it needs to come this way just a little bit. So I'm going to pull on that and a little more. So what I am doing is bending this pivot screw to fit the key that is there. So this looks like it is good. And it does not go down all the way because of the spring and also because of the other key that's there. But I'm accounting for that. So I think this screw is good. So what I'm going to do is put this screw back in, and then I'm going to remove the other screw and fit that screw. So now I'm taking off the other screw, and I'm going to do the same thing with this key. I can feel that this pivot screw is pulling the key down, so I want to bend that up a little bit, and also it's pulling it this way. So I'm going to bend it up and a little bit in that direction. I don't want to go too far. Okay, now the key seems to be good. So I'm guessing that when I put this pivot screw on, I've already fixed this one. This one is fixed now, that this key should work fine. So I'm putting the pivot screw on, and now this key works well. And it does not have the spring on it, so it should move freely up and down. And if I put the spring on it, then it should freely go up like it is supposed to. I'm going to do the same thing with the 3-ring key. Pull off the screw and take off the spring and then see which direction it wants to go. And it feels like it needs to go this way a little bit. And sometimes you have keys and other things in the way. If that's the case, you can take a mallet and just tap it a little bit. That will help bend the screw in the direction you want it to go. Okay, I think that one is okay now. So I'm going to put the screw in and take out the other screw. Now I'm going to feel which direction it needs to go. It feels like it's going down too far, so I'm going to bend it up a little bit. And that feels good. So that's the way it needs to go. Now I'm going to put the screw back in. And that key is good and it moves freely, so I'm going to hook the spring back up, and that works well. I took the screw off of here, and this key actually needs to go down, and I can't bend it down, so what I'm going to do is tap it with the mallet. Okay, I think that feels good. So I'm going to put the screw in and take the other one out and do the same thing. Okay, this one feels like it needs to go down too, so I'm going to tap that one. Okay, that feels good, so it should be good now. And that key is good too. You do not need to switch the screws around for these keys to get stuck. Sometimes they can get hit and it can bend the screws, and you'll need to do the same repair even if you have not switched the screws around. And you would repair this the same for the saxophone as you would the clarinet. I hope this video has been helpful. Please subscribe for more band instrument repair videos and look in the description below for links to other related videos.